Most people believe that when someone agrees with them, it means they are convinced. That agreement reflects belief, alignment, or shared values. But in reality, much of what looks like agreement is something else entirely. People often follow instructions, norms, and authority figures without actually agreeing internally. They comply, adapt, nod, or say yes, while privately feeling uncertain, resistant, or disconnected. This isn't hypocrisy, it isn't weakness, and it isn't a failure of critical thinking. It is a nervous system response. Today, we are going to explore why people follow without agreeing, not from the perspective of persuasion or manipulation, but from the deeper logic of safety, regulation, and social survival. Because once you understand this, social behavior begins to make sense in a way logic alone never could. Agreement is not the same as safety. To begin, we need to separate two ideas that are often confused: agreement and compliance. Agreement is cognitive. Compliance is physiological. Agreement involves belief, reasoning, and evaluation. Compliance involves safety, threat assessment, and regulation. The nervous system does not ask, "Is this correct?" It asks, "Is this safe?" And when safety is uncertain, compliance often emerges, even when agreement does not. This is why people stay quiet in meetings while internally disagreeing. Why employees follow policies they privately think are flawed. Why groups move in one direction while many individuals feel uneasy inside. The body chooses belonging over truth when belonging feels essential for safety. The evolutionary roots of following. From an evolutionary perspective, humans survived not by being right, but by staying connected. For most of human history, being excluded from the group was a life-threatening event. Isolation meant exposure, hunger, vulnerability, and death. So our nervous systems evolved to prioritize group cohesion, authority recognition, rapid alignment under uncertainty. Following was not a moral choice, it was a survival strategy, and that wiring is still active today. Even in modern environments, offices, schools, social media, the nervous system reacts to perceived social threat the same way it reacted to predators thousands of years ago. So they comply. So the body adapts. Compliance is often a freeze or fawn response. When people think of stress responses, they usually think of fight or flight. But there are two others that matter deeply in social situations: freeze and fawn. Freeze looks like silence, passivity, or disengagement. Fawn looks like agreement, appeasement, or over-cooperation. When someone follows without agreeing, they are often in one of these states. Their nervous system is not relaxed enough to challenge, even if that knowledge is incomplete. Why authority triggers automatic following? Authority is not just a social concept, it is a biological signal. When the nervous system perceives authority, it interprets it as predictability, structure, reduced uncertainty. This is why people often follow instructions even when they don't fully understand or agree with them. Authority reduces ambiguity, and ambiguity is stressful to the nervous system. This doesn't mean authority is always right. The difference between obedience and trust. Here's an important distinction. People often mistake obedience for trust, but obedience can exist without trust, and trust cannot exist without safety. Obedience is compliance under perceived pressure. Trust is alignment under felt safety. Many systems, workplaces, institutions, relationships, rely heavily on obedience while assuming trust. This creates environments where people follow instructions while quietly disengaging internally. Over time, this leads to burnout, cynicism, passive resistance, emotional withdrawal. Because the nervous system can comply temporarily, but it cannot fake safety indefinitely. Why people say yes while meaning no. One of the most confusing social behaviors is this. People agree verbally, but behave inconsistently afterward. They say yes in the moment, then delay, avoid, or quietly disengage. This is often interpreted as dishonesty, but more accurately, it is state-dependent behavior. In the moment of agreement, the nervous system is responding to social pressure, authority, fear of conflict, desire for harmony. Later, when the pressure subsides, the body returns to its true internal state, and the behavior changes. The yes was real, but it was a regulated yes, not an aligned one. Why logical arguments rarely change group behavior. If following were about agreement, then logic would be enough. But logic often fails to shift group behavior because groups are regulated by emotional safety, not reasoning. People may understand an argument intellectually and still resist it behaviorally, because understanding does not equal safety. Until the nervous system feels safe enough to tolerate difference, disagreement feels threatening, even when the logic is sound. This is why debates often harden positions instead of changing them. The nervous system tightens under threat, and tight systems do not learn. Social conformity as nervous system synchronization. Humans are wired to synchronize with those around them. Tone of voice, facial expressions, posture, pacing. This synchronization creates a sense of safety. Conformity is often less about belief and more about co-regulation. When people align behaviorally, their nervous systems calm together. Disrupting that alignment by disagreeing or standing out can feel destabilizing, so people stay in sync, even when they internally diverge. Why dissent feels riskier than it is. In modern environments, disagreement rarely carries real danger. But the nervous system doesn't operate on logic. It operates on memory and pattern recognition. Past experiences of rejection, punishment, or shame shape present responses. If disagreement once led to ridicule, conflict, or exclusion, the body remembers. So when a similar situation arises, the nervous system preemptively avoids risk. By following. This is not weakness, it is learning. Influence without agreement is fragile. When people follow without agreeing, influence becomes shallow and unstable. Compliance without alignment requires constant pressure. The moment pressure is removed, behavior changes. This is why systems built on control require monitoring, enforcement, repetition. Whereas systems built on safety require far less effort. Alignment sustains itself. Why true influence requires regulation, not persuasion. The most stable influence does not come from convincing arguments. It comes from nervous system regulation. When people feel safe, they become more open, more curious, more flexible, more willing to revise beliefs. Safety allows disagreement without rupture. And only in that state can true agreement emerge. The quiet cost of constant compliance. Living in chronic compliance has a cost. When people repeatedly override their internal signals to maintain external harmony, the nervous system accumulates stress. This can show up as fatigue, irritability, anxiety, emotional numbness, because the body is constantly suppressing authentic response. Following without agreeing keeps the system functioning, but not thriving. Reclaiming agency without conflict. The goal is not to stop following entirely. Humans need coordination. The goal is to recognize when compliance is safety-driven, and to gently rebuild internal trust. This doesn't require confrontation. It requires regulation. As the nervous system becomes more stable, people naturally speak more honestly, set clearer boundaries, choose alignment over appeasement. Following happens where it does not. Why this understanding changes everything. When you understand that following without agreeing is a nervous system response, not a moral failure, you stop shaming yourself, you stop misjudging others, you stop relying on pressure, and you begin building environments where alignment is possible, not by persuasion, but by safety.